Welcome viewers to this session. This session will be going to discuss Carvaka philosophy. As I said in my first session, Introduction to Indian Philosophy, that we will be starting with heterodox system. Carvaka comes under heterodox system. You know already what is heterodox system. Still I repeat, so that you can also able to recapitulate whether you have understood correctly or not. Heterodox system are those systems who know that Veda exists, but they do not believe in Vedas. So, therefore, in other sense you can call them Nastika, because they do not accept the authorities of Veda. However, they completely aware that there is a scripture called Veda and it exists. So, these systems known as heterodox systems, and Buddhism, Jainism, Carvaka, these three schools comes under heterodox system. Now, today we will start from Carvaka system onwards. Carvaka is an older system among the all system. That is not I am saying, it is not my own opinion, rather the opinion I collected from various sources, and I conclude with the evidence that yes, it is one among the other, the oldest system. Now, we will see what is the Carvaka system, how people have an opinion on this system, and what is Carvaka epistemology, Carvaka metaphysics for today's session. Today, of course, it is not possible to complete whole Carvaka system. We will be spending another session for this Carvaka session to complete the whole system. A little background first, I will be describing you about the Carvaka school. Then I will be telling that others' opinion on this Carvaka school. Then we will be going to discuss about the Carvaka epistemology. It is one among the other heterodox system that I already said. It does not accept Vedas, but completely aware that there is a scripture exists, that is these are called Vedas, and you know that Vedas are of four types: Rug Veda, Sam Veda, Yajur Veda and Atharva Veda. Many people claim that Brihaspati is a Rishi or a sage, the founder of this Carvaka system. For their claim, they find that there is a Brihaspati Sutra, there is a scriptures, and the scriptures it is stated that Brihaspati the founder of these schools. Therefore, many scholars believe that Brihaspati may be the founder of the Carvaka school. Next point, in Mahabharata, some scholars find that some of the comments that how Carvaka said that the gross body is the self. The last session, if you can see that, you find that self was explained in Atman, Brahman in a very higher superlative degree, right, in Upanishad. In Veda also, scholars talks about self in a different way, but Carvaka did not accept this Veda, said that self is nothing, self is a human body. They claim that how does it matter for a human being whether self exists or not, because self is not like a table chair which we can perceive it, and since we cannot perceive, we cannot claim that this is the valid knowledge for us, and henceforth they say that in the present life what we are seeing is our completely body. It is a mixture of different parts, your hand, eyes, legs, belly, your stomach, many more things. So, therefore, for them self is nothing but a combination of all parts. You can say that a self is same as body, because one body dies, we do not know whether self remains in that body or goes some other places, we do not know about it. Even also we do not know in the past whether the body always correspond to the self or self inheres in the body or not, that we do not know, because you cannot see your previous life, the past life. Henceforth, what you see is the physical body. So, since they are materialistic and they believe in a empiricist standpoint, they said that what we see, what we perceive is the only real things. The world that things that we perceive is the real things, and we claim that the knowledge we accumulated for that object is a valid knowledge, and any other knowledge beyond that cannot be called a valid knowledge. For example, hell and heaven, we have not seen that. After our death, whether the self will be going to hell or heaven depend on our karma, past karma, present karma, future karma, all these things Carvaka does not believe. They say that how does it matter what karma you have done your past birth, since you have not seen your karma? And how does it matter that after your death where your self will go? Whether your self will go to the hell or heaven, it depends on karma that other people say, but there is no reason that it is always the case that either your self will go to hell and heaven, because you cannot see that hell and heaven. If you cannot see anything, how can you believe on that? If you believe, then if you believe in a superstitions, what you believe is just in your faith, it is a blind belief. That means it cannot be a valid knowledge. Therefore, they do not believe in the existence of hell and heaven also. If you see in that slide also, you find in Ramayana, Valmiki also mentioned about the Lokayata in philosophy. Lokayata philosophy is known as Carvaka philosophy. Manu as a Rishi also stated about Carvaka philosophy in the scriptures Samhita, and also there are some ancient scriptures. From all these evidences, from Mahabharata, from Ramayana, from Samhita, and from Brihaspati Sutra, you can conclude that, and these are the evidence lies in your hand to conclude that Carvaka school is one among the other ancient school of Indian thought. So henceforth we know that Carvaka, it comes under heterodox system, believes in materialism, or believes that perception is the only reality, is the most ancient schools. Now we will see that how people derive the opinion on Carvaka. In other words, I can say that different people has a different opinion on Carvaka. Many people say that Carvaka is a Rishi, the Rishi name is Carvaka, and he developed all the thoughts materialistic. Therefore, after his death or after him, the whole idea accumulated and the school name is known as Carvaka. Then few scholars came out, they reject that view, they said that we do not accept this opinion, but we have a different opinion on that. Now let us see what are the people have a different opinion and why they have put their opinion differently on Carvaka schools. Now you can find in my next slide. Now before discussing what are the opinion of different people on Carvaka, now few points again I am highlighting so that you can have strong understanding on Carvaka. Carvaka is a Nastika school, as I said. You can see that it conveys that how you have to enjoy in your life instead of searching for the ultimate reality. Carvaka says that how does it matter that whether the ultimate reality is Atman or Brahman, because it is nothing to do with this Atman and Brahman in your present life. What you see in the present life is the materialistic world. So therefore you try to enjoy it the best. Therefore many people have an opinion that if there are some people or there are some school of people, if they believe that in the present life you should eat good, you should have a drink, and also you should have a married life. If you can practice these three principles, then you can have a happy life, and once you can enjoy the happy life, you are the liberated person in this earth. So therefore for them liberation means you must be eat, drink and be merry. These three principles you have to practice. So therefore you find that never they bother about what is the real cause for creation of the whole universe, what is the ultimate reality for creating the whole cosmos in a particular order. So what they really interested is to know that how to survive in the present earth in a beautiful way. That is their main concern. Now if you can see my next point, they search for the truth, and the truth is nothing but to urge a pleasure in the life. It challenges that all other schools, including the other heterodox system of Jainism and Buddhism. Jainism, Buddhism accept some other sources of knowledge, whereas Carvaka only accept that perception is the only source of knowledge. That means what you see is the only valid point or valid knowledge that you can claim for. In other sources through which you accumulate knowledge or you attain some knowledge, that cannot be called as a valid knowledge, because you are not completely rely on that sources, you cannot completely depend on that sources, because it is a various different ways coming the sources that we will be discussing later part. Further, if you find the Carvaka school, it believes in the traditional value. Those schools who believe in a traditional value, Carvaka argues against that. They said that how can you believe the traditional values, because the traditional values exist in that time. it will vary from time to time and place to place. How can you stick to the traditional value and continue your whole life? How can you without enjoying your life, how can you be sit like ideally and pray for all the times God? And at the one hand you cannot see the God. If you cannot see the God, what is the use of to pray God, and what is the use of to always try to get the liberation in your life? The life that you get, you must enjoy the life, therefore you will get the liberation. If you see my last few points, that in metaphysics there are different schools including Jainism, Buddhism also talk about metaphysics, epistemology, ethics. Now I am telling about what is metaphysics. Metaphysics always deals with the existence of reality. It is a beyond physics. In ordinary sense people claim that it is a beyond physics, but in philosophical sense metaphysics is understood as the cause for the existence of reality. Now what is the cause for the ultimate reality? What is the cause for the creation of this cosmos? Now coming to the epistemology, is a philosophical word which stands for the science of knowledge. Anything you say, anything you derive, anything you conclude, you say that this is a knowledge, it is a conceptual world, it is a science of knowledge. Through argument you establish. If this kind of exercise you do, you say that these are the epistemology, because epistemology is nothing but deals with the science of knowledge. It has nothing to do to saying that whether the world exists or not. It said that if the world exists, how the world exists. The question arises how. When you answer to the question how, it really talks about the epistemology, the knowledge through which you establish the existence of world. Now regarding the ethics, as you know that ethics tells about our action, what action we should perform, so that it will be a good or bad, it will be judged as either good or bad. A particular action in a particular time cannot be called both good and bad, though the good and bad is an ethical code of conduct fixed for a particular society for a particular time. It varies from context to context. However, there are some common essence, ethical practices, code, conduct, mannerism, behaviorism, all these things you find in ethics. It is because of ethics and moral principles we live in a happy life. We also stay in a society where different culture of people exist, different set of mind people exist. Because of ethical code of conduct, we know that human beings are superior than other animals. So all these view you find on ethics, epistemology, metaphysics in other schools are contrasted by the Carvaka. Carvaka really concerned about the enjoyment of life. How must you derive the pleasure from your present life? That is the most concern for the Carvaka. If you see the last, they believe in a dogmatic standpoint. What is a dogmatic standpoint? Dogmatic standpoint are those points which deals with a practical aspect. That means once they will do it, they never doubt further. But on the other hand, skeptic, they doubt each and everything. Even the touching to a water bottle, the skeptic doubt whether it is a real water bottle or not. That is what I said in the bracket, or dogmatism is opposed to skepticism. Skepticism doubt each and everything, even they doubt themselves. But whereas dogmatic approach are those, they believe that if they perceive something and they touch something through their sense organ, or they know that this thing exists and they got the knowledge of that object, and henceforth they never doubt further. In that way you find the two schools, dogmatic and skeptic, how they differ in their own opinion. Carvaka in this context is a dogmatic. Their approach to see the world, to see the human life in a dogmatic approach. It is not a skeptical approach. Now further, Carvaka school as a materialistic school, they believe that matter is the only reality, because what we see is the only matter. In other words, you can claim that the whole world is the constituent of state of affairs. That means the world is the amalgam or the mixture of objects or facts. In the world, if you say that there is no object, no facts exist, then this is not the empirical world, this may be some other world. For Carvaka, they really concern about the material world, they never bother about the other world which does not deal with the physical reality of this cosmological world. Now in this consideration, if this is their ground, they claim further that we cannot able to see our mind, but however it is the mind through which we think something, through which we argue something, through which we can claim that how epistemology different from ethics, how ethics different from metaphysics. Even in ethics, you can also claim that how good action is different from bad action, why we should not practice bad action rather than how better we can practice the good actions. Though we can do all these things through our mind, through our mental exercises or mental activities, but we cannot see our we cannot see our mind. What we can see is that we can see our head, because we can touch it, we can feel it, but no one can see his or her mind. Therefore, though we accumulate knowledge in many cases by the help of our mind or mental exercise or mental activity, as you say, however, all the knowledge that we accumulate through our mental activity cannot be called as a authentic or a valid knowledge, because for them we cannot see our mind, and henceforth if we cannot see our mind and through our sense organs we cannot know that there is a mind exists, like a table, chair and other objects, we cannot strongly claim that this is a valid knowledge for us. Further, they say that we aware that consciousness exists, but consciousness we cannot see. Since we cannot see the consciousness, we are not sure whether consciousness exists in human mind or human body or any part of the human being or any part of the animals. Any creature lives in this earth must have a consciousness, but if anyone ready to claim that consciousness is the product of matter, then Carvaka ready to accept, because for them matter is the only reality which exists. But however, others could deny that how consciousness can be a matter. If consciousness can be a matter, matter has to be perceived, but consciousness cannot be perceived. In this context, Carvaka disagrees with other schools of thought. Carvaka says that if nothing can be perceived, then you cannot say that the world exists, you cannot say that any animal exists. If you see something, if you perceive something, then that object, that matter, that animal, that fact only exists. Apart from that and beyond that, nothing exists. Now, we will switch over into the next slide. Now, as I said regarding the opinions of Carvaka, now you can see this in this slide. The sage name called Carvaka, many people or many scholars believe that the Carvaka is a sage name who construct the materialism, and after him the school name is known as Carvaka. Also, I discussed with you that there are different group of people who thinks that if you can practice eat, drink and be merry in your life, then you can be considered as a Carvaka, because you believe the most way of enjoying in this life, the present life. Now, Lokayata also is known as materialism, and hence it is known as materialism. Carvaka also known as some sense Lokayata. That means the view of common folk. That means what ordinary people behave, what ordinary people accept, that Carvaka also accept, because no human being in this earth, they do not seek for pleasure. No human being in this earth, they do not seek for the enjoyment of life. No human being in this earth do not seek for the happiness in life. No human being in this earth cannot seek for a wealthy life or a prestigious life. If you seek for all this life, where you get it? You cannot get through your yoga practices, the asana, pranayama, all these things you cannot get it. So you need a very, very comfortable pleasure life, and for that you have to practice the materialism. That is what they said, that if you adhere to the principle eat, drink and be merry, you will have a happy life. What you need more in this life? And you do not know after your death whether yourself remain with your body or it will be died with your body. You do not know, because you cannot see yourself. Therefore, few scholars they say that if I practice how to get the maximum enjoyment from this present life, it will be the best achievement that I will do, and I will be adhered to this principle. Henceforth, if you claim me as a materialist or if you claim me as a Carvaka, we have no issue. Now, if you see that Madhavacharya is a dualist. Dualist means who believes in two things, or those who believes that there are two things exist in this world. Anything you say, any concept you say, they say that it is divided into two. In the same way, Madhavacharya say that Carvaka is a school as constituted with two words. One is Charu, another is Bhak. Charu stands for sweet, whereas Bhak stands for word. Charu means sweet. The way you speak, it should be polite, it should be gentle, and it should have a sweet flavor. And vak means the word, always you speak to the good words to the peoples. If you can do that, that means you accept the materialistic society. And few scholars, as I said, they claim that Brihaspati is the founder of the school, because in the Brihaspati Sutra it is stated that what are the practice somebody has to do in the life, what somebody has to adhere in his principles or her principles. So therefore, some scholar has evidence to claim that Brihaspati is the founder of Carvaka schools. Now we will be discussing the Carvaka epistemology. Epistemology, as I said, it deals with the science of knowledge, and here the valid cognition is known as proma. What it means is that, what is a valid cognition? That means you are knowing something, you are understanding something, and also you claim that you acquired the knowledge. If you can do that, that is a valid knowledge, and once you know that this is a valid knowledge, you can call it a proma. Now to have a proma, you must need a pramana. Pramana means the sources through which you acquired a knowledge. There are 4 sources found in Indian schools, though many people have their different opinion on the 4 schools, many people even accept more than 4, but generally it is accepted that there are 4 sources. One is perception, another is inference, third one is comparison, the fourth one is verbal testimony. Perception in Sanskrit it is called pratyakya, inference in Sanskrit it is called anumana, comparison in Sanskrit it is called upamana, and the verbal testimony in Sanskrit it is called sabda. So now you know that there are 4 sources, one is perception, another is inference, third one is comparison, and the fourth one is verbal testimony. Carvaka said that perception is the only reality of knowledge. That means they reject the other sources of knowledge, they reject the other pramanas such as inference, comparison, testimony, but adhere to the principle that perception is the only source of knowledge, because for them matter exists and you can see the matter, you can perceive the matter. Initially when they say that matter exists and perception is the only reality of knowledge, traditionally or initial phase they claim that perception is same as visibility. That means by the help of your eyes as a sense organ, whatever you see it is only can be valid, and the knowledge you get by seeing something or claiming that. Suppose you are seeing this is a table, or the table color is brown and the table exists in front of you, that means you acquire the knowledge of table, that means you have a valid knowledge of table and you acquire through the perception. Here perception is a pramana and the knowledge of table is called a prama, it is a valid knowledge, you got it. While rejecting inference, comparison, testimony, he always claims, or the school always claims, that we did not accept all these pramanas because these are the pramanas has nothing to do with perception, because inference is the pramana, we conclude something which even we have not seen that. In upamana we see something and we conclude some other thing by comparing something, and the comparison we cannot see that. Even verbal testimony, in verbal testimony we have to accept, we have to believe some others words which may true, may not true. Therefore they say that what the person said, if I cannot see that object, if I cannot see that fact, if I cannot perceive that fact, how can I claim that this is a valid knowledge? How can I accumulate from that verbal testimony that the object for which the person refers or says something is a valid knowledge for me, or I can identify that object accurately what the person says. In this way they concentrate only on perception while rejects other sources of knowledge. The sources of valid knowledge, that is what they said pramana. According to Carvaka, they adhere to the source of knowledge is only the perception, and others sources of knowledge for them is unreal, it is not real. While doing that they reject all other sources of knowledge that I have already discussed. Now I will now coming that their epistemology is so stronger that you find that Carvaka metaphysics many times the analysis on metaphysics is based on their epistemological ground. Shankarananda is a sage or a Rusi said that Carvaka is a school believes in accidentalism. That means they think that there is no one, or we cannot give a credit to a person who creates the whole world in a particular order, who also puts time for everything to move, the sun to be rise, the sun to be set, the moon has to be rise, there will be Amavasya, there will be Purnima, there is a human being grows, they have a child, young age, old age, die, again the self will go some other places, animal will burn, and all this ecological balance we cannot, for that we cannot give credit to a one person. We cannot accept a supernatural being for that, because if this is so, then we have to see whether the supernatural being exists or not. If he or she exists, where he or she exists. If we cannot see, it is just a superstition for us or a blind belief for us. Therefore, the knowledge for claiming that one person is responsible for creating the whole universe and also making the whole universe to move in a particular order in a particular time, it is just a nothing but a blind belief we adhere to. Thus, they claim that everything happens in accidentalism. They say that fire is hot, ice is cool, grass is green, sky is blue. You find different things as a different attributes, and they claim that different things as a different attributes or characteristics just because they are having the different nature, and all these attributes are found in the objects. You cannot claim that fire is cool, because coolness as a attributes cannot find in the fire. Fire is such a unique object, the quality of heat inheres in it. In the same way, you cannot say that ice is so heat, or you cannot say that ice is looks red. You always say that ice looks white and ice is cool, because the coolness as a attributes or a quality inheres in the ice. So therefore, you cannot deduce the quality of color, the quality of taste, the quality, any other quality which accidentally joined with that object. You cannot deduce from that. If you deduce, then the object never remains as it is. For example, if you remove appleness of an apple, the object you cannot call that apple further, because in that object appleness does not lie. You cannot put appleness in an orange even, because appleness is the essential quality of apple, it does not find in any other fruits. Hence, it is simply claimed that everything happens by accidents, and this is Carvaka accept, because they do not have any other claim to made it. If they say that this happens due to some other sources of knowledge, or somebody is responsible for creating all this or putting attribute differently in different object, then immediately other schools can claim to Carvaka that can you also perceive that person who has done all these activities. Therefore, Carvaka said that to be on free side, to be in safe side, say that everything happens in an accidental basis. That means sun rises in the east, it is an accidental. We human beings speak, we understand each other's language, it is because of accident. So therefore, they said that accidentalism is the essence of the whole world. The accidentalism known as akasmikata baddo, that means everything happens in a akasmic way, it is a surprise way. Now, continuing to this view, they said that all these effects that we find which comes from the objects are produced because of the object, because of the nature of that object. It is not because of some voluntary person who has done that, which is known as Swabhavavada. That means every object has its unique features, and every object functions in a unique way. Therefore, we identify chair as a chair, we never say chair as a table. Table has a different purpose, table has a different actions, table has a different attribute which may not be resemble with the chair. Therefore, we claim table as a table and chair as a chair. If chairness does not find in a chair or tableness does not find in a table, then we cannot claim that, or we cannot say that these two objects are different, and this happens just because of accidentalism. No one can responsible for that. Further, they claim that if we adhere to this principle, then let people also claim us that we are naturalist, because we believe what exists in this phenomenal world, we believe what really happens in the empirical world, we concern for that. Now, they do not believe even causality and universality. Now, I am explaining why they do not believe in causality and universality. In people say that, or it is claimed that every event has a cause, that means anything happens, there is a cause behind this, right. In this, if this is so, Carvaka claims that what we can see is that we see only cause, we see also effect, but we cannot see the inherent relation that cause and effect have. For example, milk turns to the curd. If curd is the effect, then milk will be the cause, right. If this is so, if you understood if this phenomena, then Carvaka claims that what we can see is that we see the milk in one hand, we see the curd in another hand, but we cannot see what is the in between happens. We cannot see the relation, the inherent relation between curd and milk. No one can claim that now this is the time when the milk turned to the curd. No one can claim. What people claim that in one hand they see milk and in another hand they see the curd. If you cannot see the inherent relation, Carvaka claimed that, is it possible that what happened in the past, it will be same way happening in the present, or also it will be happening in the future? If this is not so, how can we believe in the causality? Because perception also fails here to see the inherent relation between cause and effect. If you see the universalness, Carvaka accepts that how can we say that universality exists? When I say a cow, do you mean that all the cows exist in the phenomenal world, both present, past and future? Can a person able to imagine all the cows with all the features existing in this phenomenal world? If you not so, how can you say that the universalness exists? When I say cow, when I say tree, you immediately refer to a particular object or a particular animal. Then if it is referred to a particular animal and you can claim that I can see that tree or see that animal, how can you say that universal exists when you always refer to a particular thing? So, in this case they reject both causality as well as the universality, because for them perception fails to see the universalness as well as the causality, where cause effect has an inherent relation. Now, further, for them causality is an imaginary relation, because there is a relation between the antecedent and consequent, and the in between relation cannot be perceived through our perception. So, what they guarantee is that what we perceive, it is just because our sense organs, and for them perception not limited with the visibility, though initially they start with visibility, later they said that we have a 5 sense of organs plus mind is the 6th sense of organs. So, including the 6th sense of organs, whatever things we perceive can be considered as a perceive. That means, if you take say 5 sense organs, nose, ear, tongue, your eyes and skin, all these 5 sense organs, right, it has different function, and by the help of these 5 sense organs, anything or any knowledge you accumulate, that is only the valid knowledge, and the source of knowledge should be perception. That means, anything you do this through 5 sense organs, it will be valid. Further they claim that mind is another sense organ, 6 sense organs. Through mind also we gain many knowledge, we accumulate many knowledge, we attain many kind of achievements. However, all the knowledge we gain through the mind as a sense organs cannot be called as a authoritative, authentic and valid knowledge, because many things we cannot able to see it. They highlight further, stating that anything happens in our mind, it is just because of our sense organs. Sense organs are always attentive, therefore it sends the impressions or information to the mind, and mind accumulates the knowledge, and henceforth the 6 sense organs, mind, whatever knowledge accumulates, it is due to the other 5 sense organs. Now, we will see what the sense organs has a different functions. Now, since as you know that I said perception for them is the only source of knowledge, and this is the through perception any knowledge you accumulate is only valid knowledge, and any other sources you accumulate knowledge is not a valid knowledge. And also I have described what is the internal perception, what is the external perception, and how mind depends on the external perception. And also I said that how perceptibility of world is the only reality for them and why they stick to this point. If this is the case, then you find that advocates two principles by Carvaka, one is empiricism, another is naive realism. Now you must understand what is naive realism. Realism means that you see in this world through your sense organs, you touch, you feel, you smell, you hear, anything through your sense organs you do, that is called a realistic approach. That means you touch an object, you feel the hardness, you say that this object exists because its quality is hard. That is a realistic approach. Naive realism means Carvaka believed that suppose you have an idea, let us say fire. In your childhood you have an idea of fire, you know that fire burns, so you never put your finger on the fire, right. But in the later period when you grow and grow, you find that the term fire can be used in a different purposes. Therefore the term fire have a different meaning. When you accumulate experience, the meaning also changed. However, the earlier meaning that you have gained, it remains the same, only you add some different meaning to that. I am giving a concrete example for your understanding. In your childhood, if by accident you put your finger on a fire, you immediately know that fire burns, so you never do the same mistake further. But when you get adult, you can also claim that these two friends fighting with each other, and you can say that by identifying your friend, say that see these are the fires, or their fire burns, by just pointing that how these two people are quarreling with each other. So the fire, the term remains same, the meaning gets changed, the meaning just accumulated. That means one term has a different meaning, so therefore you interpret differently. So this is the approach of naive realism. What Carvaka claim here is that in this context, suppose you see a chair today and tomorrow you see that the chair color faded, still you can claim this is a chair, because the different sense organs can able to tell you that this is a chair because of so and so reason it just fade up. Though the color not remain same, still you can claim this, your knowledge about the chair is a chair, and henceforth you will appreciate and accept the principles called naive realism and also empiricism. Why they adhere to empiricism? Because for them anything is real is just found in the phenomenal world. They do not accept any such things which is finding beyond the world. So therefore perception is the only reality, and there is no other sources through which if we accumulate knowledge cannot be considered as a valid knowledge. Now as I said, now we will see the different function of sense organs, that how different sense organs works differently or functions differently. The textual organ perceives softness, hardness, heat, cold, likely manner. The gustatory organs perceives sweet, sour, pungent and the like. The olfactory organs agreeable and disagreeable odors. Through your nose you can feel that the odor is a good one or bad one. Now the visual sense organs can, through which you can know that this is a wall, mountain, duster, chalk piece or book, pen, etc. The auditory organs, by the help of ear you can know that different sounds. So suppose somebody knock to your door and put a calling bell, you can make a difference, because the different sounds you hear differently, and it happens because of accidentalism. So these are the 5 sense organs responsible to accumulate a knowledge, and the knowledge that we accumulate through these sense organs is known as valid knowledge or prama. And any knowledge we accumulate beyond these sense organs cannot be considered as a valid knowledge for Carvaka. Now we will move to the next, how Carvaka really rejects inference as a valid pramana. What is the ground for them to reject that inference is not a valid knowledge? As you know that there are 2 types of inferences, one is deductive inference, another is inductive inference. In deductive inference, we move from general to particular. That means we conclude something based on some of the presuppositions or propositions. I will give an example. If I say all men are mortal, Rama is a man, therefore Rama is mortal. Here the first proposition I made, all men are mortal. Mortal is a generic proposition, and I say Rama is mortal because of so and so cause, therefore if anyone is a human being, he or she will be mortal. This is called deductive. That means we are deducing from general to particular. On the other hand, there is a inductive inference where you find first there is a particular instances. Let us say I say crow X is black, crow Y is black, crow Z is black, and there is a gap. That means any other people can also say that crow X1 is black, crow Y1 is black, depend on the experience. And the latter, at the conclusion, you conclude that because of so and so cases and evidences, some uniformity is there, I can conclude that all crows are black. So there is a universality nature finding here in case of induction. Carvaka argues that in both the cases perception does not really work. You cannot initially claim that all human beings are mortal, because can you perceive all human beings which exist both present, future as well as past life? It is not possible. In the same way, considering the inductive inference, they said that if you see that crow X is black, crow Y is black, crow Z is black, but how can you make sure that all the crows exist in the whole world will be black? Because you have your few experience, you cannot see the whole world, because human beings has a limited knowledge. There are every chances that if one crow is not black or somehow different from black color, still your conclusion is not a valid one. Therefore, since you are not able to perceive any of these inferences, inference cannot be considered as a valid one. What is the inference for them? In inference, you find a Vyapti relation. The Vyapti relation says that the middle term and the major term must have a universal, invariable and concomitant relation. Now, if you can see my slides, that from epistemological standpoint, they rejects the distinction between inference, both deductive and inductive, and while rejecting this inference, they claim that the inference itself we reject. We need not to go to get the distinction between inference, because it has nothing to do with our perception. Perception does not work there. Further, they said that we need a Vyapti relation in all the inferences, and for them Vyapti relation is an universal, invariable, unconditional and concomitant relation between the major term and the middle term. Here I would like to highlight what is a major term, what is a middle term, how to know the major and middle term. That we will find in the next slide. But you must remember that any inference must have a Vyapti relation. If I say there is an inductive inference, you immediately say, or deductive inference, there is a Vyapti relation. That means at least we need few propositions to draw a conclusion. A conclusion cannot be drawn through a single proposition, and all the propositions that we presuppose or fix before the conclusion must have a major premise, minor premise or conclusion. In the major premise, you find there is a relation between major term and the middle term. In the minor premise, you find there is a relation between minor term and the middle term. So henceforth, you find the middle term which join between major term and minor term in the inference, and the conclusion we can only find in the major term and minor term. We never find middle term in the conclusion. I repeat, in an inference we find three terms. One is major term, another is middle term, another is minor term. The first premise you take, say, deductive inference. So deductive inference consists of three propositions. If you take Aristotelian inferences or Aristotelian logic, he said that the first proposition you take, say all human beings are mortal. If you say that Rama is mortal, that means here mortal is the middle term, because you find mortality you find in both the premises, both major and minor premise. But in the conclusion you say that therefore Rama is a human being, right? That means Ram and human being are both major term and minor term. Here Rama is a minor term and human being is a major term, because human being is found in the major premise, Rama is found in the minor premise. If this is you understood, then you know that the middle term must establish a relation between the major premise and the minor premise, and henceforth the middle term does not appear in the conclusion. In the conclusion, what it appears? Only the major term and the minor term. So this is about the inferences. Now if you see that the middle term must establish an invariable relation between the major term and the middle term, then only we could able to establish conclusion. The Nyaya philosophy, they consider a inference can be consist of more than 3 propositions. Now it is before you, the hill is fiery because it is smoky, whatever is smoky is fiery. The hill is smoky, and the fifth one, the hill is fiery. If you take either the first 3 proposition or the last 3 proposition, the inference will be completely okay. What you find in 3, let us say you take 3, 4, 5, these 3 proposition, what you find? There is a middle term, there is a minor term, there is a major term. Here you find smoky is a middle term because it connects both major term and minor term, right. Fire is a major term, whereas hill is a minor term. So hill is known as in Sanskrit Pakhya, fire is known as Sadhya, and smoke as a middle term is known as Hetu. Therefore you find Hetu and Sadhya has an invariable, unconditional and universal relation with each other. So 3 things, 3 components you need in your inference. One is Hetu in Pakhya, then Hetu must be associated with Sadhya, and at the conclusion you establish Sadhya in Pakhya. If these 3 things are there, then you can have a good inferences. Now why Carvaka refutes the inferences? Today I am highlighting some of the points, and the next class, next session I will be elaborating further. There are 4 grounds for Carvaka to say that we cannot accept inferences. The first one is that in inferences there will be a concomitant relation between fire and smoke all the time. If you take that example, in what happens, whenever you see a smoke there will be fire. So smoke and fire are always invariably related with each other. At the conclusion, what we claim is that the hill is fiery because we see the smoke. What it means is that whenever there is a smoke appears, we always presuppose there is a fire. But Carvaka claims that what we see is the smoke, but we cannot see the fire. If we cannot see the fire, is it the case that without seeing we can claim that all the cases fire and smoke are invariably related? We cannot say so, because all the cases we cannot see it. All the past, all the present and in the future we cannot able to see it, that smoke and fire are invariably related with each other. If this is so, how can we claim that? If perception, we cannot perceive all the past, present and future, how can you claim that there is a inference exists, and through inference we can accumulate a valid knowledge? Therefore I said that inference depend on concomitance relation. So till this much now you understood. We will be further discussing how Carvaka really rejects the another source of knowledge. These are inferences, comparison and verbal testimony. Why for them these 3 sources of knowledge is not a valid knowledge. So this class ends here, and the next class we will be seeing that really how Carvaka established that only perception is a valid knowledge, and why other sources of knowledge are not really considered as a valid knowledge. In other sense, the knowledge we accumulate through other sources cannot be considered as a prama, whereas through perception whatever knowledge we will get it is not a valid knowledge or prama. I hope whatever we have discussed today understood to you, and if you have not understood you can ask the question so that we can have a future discussion. However, in the next class or the next session I will be discussing in a more elaborate way by presupposing how Carvaka has a standpoint on the perception in a very brief. Then I will be stretching my point or view by stating that how they have rejected all the sources of knowledge.